my goodness. So how does it feel to be a new mom?
Oh man, it's a lot.
Yeah?
But he's pretty cute. So.
Oh my goodness.
What's changed since last time we filmed?
Two things have changed. The first Orchid baby was born. It's Leah's baby, but it feels like my baby too. It's just been like the culmination of like an incredible amount of hard work of, not just mine, but obviously like an entire team. And this baby like represents the future of like how all babies will be created, hopefully.
This is baby Jaffe.
Oh my goodness. So what has the first couple of months been like?
A lot of diapers and feeding bottles. And I actually didn't think very much about being a parent when I was younger. I was very focused on career, and I ended up getting married pretty late. I got married at 38, and we started talking about having a baby. At that time, I had already frozen some eggs just because I thought the process was cool. So we decided to do IVF so that we could have extra genetic testing. I just think the science of it is super cool.
So can you walk us through kind of like the very beginning of working with Orchid, starting from maybe not even embryos, but just saliva tests?
You met my husband at an event, and he was really interested in trying Orchid. He has several genetic conditions in his family. My husband and I both have family history of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. And my husband has history of bipolar in his family. So we wanted to sort of see if there were anything we could do to sort of mitigate some of those issues. So we did the couples test first, which was super easy, non-invasive. It was just saliva. So we tested myself, my husband, sent them in, got the results. We decided to do IVF given my age, and we wanted to do a little bit further genetic testing. And based on that, then we were able to request with our IVF provider to test our embryos. We actually talked with one of the genetic counselors with Orchid. We went online and looked at all the results, and then selected an embryo for implantation. So that's you, bud. You were once an embryo. But for us, the embryo testing was mostly just cool. It was like, wow, look at all this like information that we can get about our embryos. But you were pretty normal, bud. You were just kind of normal baby.
So we did a paper showing that the first Orchid baby that was born, the embryo data that we got, 10 months earlier, and the cord blood from the baby match. So these really subtle mutations called de novo mutations, so spontaneous changes that happen in the embryo that aren't present in the parent, we were able to show that these variants that are really hard to detect, that no other technology can detect besides Orchid's, we were successful. So the sensitivity, specificity, accuracy, precision, all those really important clinical performance metrics were there. It's just sort of really exciting to see that in a real, like, live-born, healthy baby. The second thing that happened is that I actually tested my own embryos with Orchid. So these are my actual embryos. I ended up getting, I think, something like 21 eggs. And then from those 21 eggs, we got 16 embryos. So I think I'm going to show you those 16 embryos right now. So basically, if you kind of, scroll down here, you can compare, okay, let me look at embryo 2 versus embryo 3. So you can see that they're both chromosomally normal, and then now you start getting into these monogenic panels. So we can look at hundreds of genes that cause neurodevelopmental disorders, birth defects, hereditary cancer, microduplications and deletions. So these are all single gene or monogenic typos that cause really serious diseases. You can compare embryo 2 to embryo 3 and say, okay, look, fortunately, we just avoided risk for hundreds of diseases that otherwise you wouldn't have been able to detect until after the baby was born. Again, we're looking at embryos. This is before you even decided which one to transfer. So you're able to get all this monogenic information that is completely life-changing. So we're seeing kind of embryo 2 versus embryo 3, and you see that they're negative for all the monogenic disorders. And now you're able to see for the polygenic diseases, what's the delta in risk. So for breast cancer, you see a delta of, this embryo is close to the population average risk of about 14% lifetime risk compared to this embryo, which is very elevated. So it's a 37% lifetime risk. We actually can just go do a deep dive. So let's just look here at embryo 2. So this is the first half, the monogenic side, where we're looking for those hundreds of genes that are definitively linked to disease, where if you have one, mutation, you have, Angelman syndrome or Fanconi anemia or retinoblastoma or just a very specific disease. Now we're moving down to the polygenic section. So we can see, basically this yellow line represents the the population average risk, and then this green dot represents where the embryo is. You can see the embryo is slightly elevated for celiac and pretty close to normal on every other disease. But the last thing that I would want is that, hey, we already today know that this genetic disease exists, but I just didn't bother to see if that's something that would affect my future child. Like, I think basically sex is for fun and embryo screening is for babies. I think that it's going to become insane not to screen for these things. Just feels really cool to like actually see this after like basically grinding for so long to try to make this thing real. The first embryos that I wanted to test in the lab were mine. So to be honest, I was actually pretty nervous and scared going into the process because I really hate blood draws. I like actually used to pass out. So I was like really worried about the retrieval. People are like, oh, you're gonna have to take some time off work. I ended up having to take 0 days off work. Yeah, it really wasn't too bad. It was like 15 minutes, you're out of there. And then they're like, hey, we got 20 eggs and 16 embryos. Yeah, it just makes me feel way more confident going into a pregnancy, knowing that like the things that I'm most worried about, I have a reasonable estimate on. This is the genetic component of risk that this child is going to inherit. And this feels pretty good to, just have them, in the freezer for now until we're ready to have kids.
How old is he now?
Jaffe is 3 months old. The embryo picture, like they printed out for you really large. They're like,
oh my God.
That's you, bud.
Isn't that so surreal for you to like look at that and then?
Yeah, that's you. That's you when you were like 5 cells. No, 5 days old. That was you at 5 days. That's how they don't call them cells. Yeah, that's you.
What was your immediate reaction to the results?
Actually, relief.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I think it's just a huge relief to have the information to make informed decisions. I am enjoying every stage. It was really fun to see him as a little newborn. And now he's starting to talk. This is like all of the scans and things. So it's like from when he was like tiny. Oh, and then they do this 3D scan of his face. Oh. But he wasn't like turned the right way. So it's kind of just like...
Yeah, it's so cool that you guys got to be the first baby because now we're in, I think, 35 IVF centers across the country.
Oh, wow. Yeah, at the time you were like, you have to use this one IVF center that'll do it. And we're like, okay.
No, it's insanely surreal for me to actually see him, because it's like, so long ago that we've met, remember? And it was just like, oh, we're thinking about it.
Oh, yeah,
It doesn't feel about
having a baby.
It doesn't feel real at all then, and then...
Yeah,
now
that's
here.
when we were like, okay, we're gonna start in January. We're gonna start trying for a baby, and that's exactly when we like met you. So it was a good coincidence.
I mean, it's I don't know how to explain it. It's like, I mean, it's Leah's baby, but it feels like my baby too. Like it's just been like the culmination of like an incredible amount of hard work of not just mine, but obviously like an entire team. And yeah, it's just super exciting to know that like this set of parents and this baby is going to go through life with so much more assurance and confidence and information than was ever possible to even get. Yeah, it just feels insanely cool.
What's the next big milestone for Orchid? When will we do another one of these?
It's in stealth. Stay tuned. Very secretive.